Hello and welcome to episode 402 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson. With me is Nathan Fox. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. If you want to be LSAT famous, you can share news or ask questions on our website. That's thinkinglsat.com. All right, today on the show, we have Ashley Beaver. Ashley is our social media guru. And Ashley, what else do you want to say about yourself? You've helped us with some other things too, video production and whatnot. But
it's cool to finally say hi. It kind of feels like a face reveal or something. I've just been this person behind the scenes. It actually made me laugh. The last Thinking LSAT podcast that I saw, you guys mentioned my name. You said the name Ashley, and I'm like, man, that might be confusing because I'm not anywhere on any of the pages or anything. So who is this mystery person? Hi, nice to meet everybody. I've been running the socials since January 1st, I think, for LSAT Demon and Thinking LSAT. So if you've sent any questions or anything on our Instagram or something, that's been me. Hello.
Yeah. So today you're going to tell us a little bit about what do we, I don't even know. I don't go on our social media channels. Maybe that's not good, but
neither do I.
What do we post? What are we telling people, Ashley? How do you even decide like what to post and where do you get that information? I guess, anyways, just curious. How do you curate all this content?
Yeah, well, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot that people probably just have no idea when they hear social media stuff. I have this gigantic, out of control, color coordinated calendar with pretty much every holiday you can think of, test deadlines, classes that are coming up. I do a lot of content based off of things that you guys have written in your previous blogs. I watch a lot of the classes too and take lots of notes and do all sorts of stuff. At this point, I kind of am wondering, when am I just going to break down and start studying for the LSAT and just take it myself? Because I feel like I'm about as prepared as I could be to do it.
Yeah. Well, to take the LSAT, get a 170 something, and you could teach for us. You've already got a family member who's teaching for us. So
I do. I hear lots of classes all the time.
Ashley's husband, Brandon, teaches for us at LSAT Demon.
Yep, I'm sure off and on since he started teaching back when he was doing Game of the Day. I'm sure in the background of some of the recordings, you can hear me trying to hustle my toddler out the door, or get him to stop yelling or something. So I've been there, been behind the scenes.
So I see a long list here of frequently asked questions from our social media. How do we want to tackle these? Are you going to ask them to us and then you want us to answer them?
Sure. I know Eric narrowed it down. I just tried to come with a whole bunch so you guys would have a lot to work with. But
oh, good.
Yeah, I figured I could ask some questions and we could talk about all kinds of stuff because I get lots of questions.
Sounds perfect. What's the questions that you hear most frequently?
I hear a lot about different features on the website. The score converter comes up a lot. But I don't want to give you too many like ask button questions or anything. So I guess we'll just start with the one that I've been getting a lot this past week, which is if I want to enroll in a Demon subscription, which one should I start with?
That's a good question. If you're willing to do our top tier, the live tier, we would recommend that just because it's a great way for people to get started, join a class, and figure out exactly how to make the most use of their time. Some people end up loving the live classes and just stick with it the whole time that they're studying. Other people, they get how the demon works and they get how to most effectively study, and then they just downgrade to a premium or basic or something like that. But it's a way to jump in and save yourself a lot of time that you would otherwise need to spend just getting your mind wrapped around some of these questions, right? Like almost everyone who comes to one of our classes will ask about speed, or they'll ask about some technique that they had heard somewhere else. And we can immediately disabuse them of that misunderstanding. And then from that moment on, they at least have some idea of what direction they need to be heading. you can get that through demon drilling, but it's just, there's something about talking to someone and they recognizing where you're confused and getting right to that. Because a lot of questions that people pose in class, they may start trying to articulate what they're struggling with and they don't even know how to ask the question. But we've heard these questions so many times that it's just like, okay, hold up. This is your problem. This is what you need to do differently. And they start heading in that direction. And time is their most valuable asset. So this is a way to speed up and actually, I think, end up saving money in the long run, at least time, and hopefully get the best score that they can get before whenever they want to take the test.
Yeah, people tend to default to doing it the other way around. They're like, well, I'll start with one of the lower level plans, self-study, and then I'll come to you guys like the last month before my official test. And when to do the live classes. And when people have that approach, I think it's clear that they're just kind of misunderstanding our whole process, because this is not a test that you can cram for. We want to teach you how to self-study. And if you do just 1 month of our live program, you're going to talk to me, talk to Ben, talk to 10 other awesome LSAT teachers, and we're all going to help you, learn how to do this whole process. So if I was structuring a package for somebody and it was a fixed budget, I would definitely say start with 1 month of live and then downgrade to a more self-study plan that'll be friendlier to your budget constraints. But yeah, that one first month, I mean, we blow people's minds for that 1 month of $295. It's like, hey, you're going to come away from it with a completely different perspective on how to study for the test, which might not be the case if you're self-studying.
Well, yeah, I think there's definitely a culture shock there. If you just started kind of isolated on your own and then at the very last minute you go to one of the classes, I think that would just throw you off so hard. Whereas like taking a month of classes, kind of picking, like I think about game of the day, a lot of the classes that we do very frequently throughout the week, you just did like a week of that, you could make a huge difference in your score, like immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. We just live in a world where everybody defaults to going online, searching for information, and sometimes you're not even searching for the right information, let alone know how to search for it. When you start talking to someone, they can be like, I see that you're concerned about this, but you should actually be concerned about that. A Google search, a ChatGPT sort of conversation isn't going to redirect you toward what you should be focusing on. It might answer your question eventually, but you start talking to people and they can immediately get you focused on what's most important. And that's what really matters.
What other common questions do we get, Ashley?
How much time should I spend reviewing?
Well, as much as it takes to get the click. I'm always snapping my fingers in class. I'm always trying to get people to get that moment where they, feel that click. You'll know it. You'll know that feeling once you get it a few times. And that's what my live classes are oriented toward. That's why I would recommend that people start with a live class, because they come to me, we do questions in class, and I won't move on until I've asked a couple times, hey, anybody still confused at all? Like, this question needs to make perfect sense to you. And if it doesn't make perfect sense to you, if you haven't yet felt that click where there's one right answer and there's 4 wrong answers, and it's not just, oh, one answer is slightly better than the other, or, oh, that one's a better fit. No, one of them is right and 4 of them are wrong. And if you're not to that point yet where you don't quite get it, like you wouldn't be willing to stand up in court and explain to the court why one of the answers is perfectly justified based on the facts and based on the question they're asking you. And yes, Your Honor, this answer right here answers that question. No, Your Honor, none of these 4 wrong answers answer the question. If you can't do that, then you're not, like, you didn't really learn anything. And what people tend to do is they write it down in a wrong answer journal, or they make a note of it. Oh, I'll return to that one next week and try it again. And then if they get it right the next time, like a week later, they try it again and they get it right and they feel like they understand it. But wait, could you actually explain it to me why the right answer is right and why those wrong answers are wrong? And if you wouldn't feel comfortable explaining it to me or to the court or to Ben or to whoever, then I just don't really believe you that you really understand it. You've got to be able to understand it. So you should review even one question. I mean, you should review that question for 30 minutes if that's what it takes for you to really actually understand it. And then once you do, I don't care if you ever look at that question ever again. You put it away and move on to the other 9,999 LSAT questions that we have to work with. But yeah, you've got to review that question until you feel that click. I don't know, Ben, am I missing anything?
No, I agree 100%. I think the time that it takes, it's an interesting question. How much time should I spend reviewing? Well, it should be something, but we just don't know how long that is for everybody because everyone's different, right? Sometimes you read questions and you totally understand them. You understood them when you did them. So then your review is going to be quick. You're going to look at the answer. You're going to look at the explanation. You're going to say, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. So I'm good. And you're going to move on. But for other people, it is going to take that time. There was a question I remember when I was studying for the LSAT that took me a long time because I was hung up on something. I don't remember the details now. I just remember putting my head down on the desk. Like I can't get my mind wrapped around why this answer is right. And the whatever explanation I was looking at, I don't even remember at the time. I might not have had one. But the thing about those moments is I think that people, you get dopamine. You get that dopamine kick when you do a question. So if you can do a question and then review is hard, well, there's this temptation, I think, to move on and do another question. But you got to recognize that if you sit down one day and you do a question and then you start reviewing it, for me, it took a long time that one day. I don't remember exactly how long, but when I was done, like it made sense. I got that click. I hadn't thought of that idea, but that unlocks dozens, maybe sometimes for some people, hundreds of other questions. Yeah. I can see why people think in the moment, like, oh, I'm wasting my time or I've got to move on or this is frustrating. But that's where the real work is taking place. That's where the real value actually is. In fact, if someone is doing lots and lots of questions and they understand them instantly, well, I feel glad for them. That's great. But they're really not hitting the stuff that is going to move the needle and make them stronger and better at the test.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a mindset thing too. Like you're not asking the right question. How much time should I spend reviewing? It's about the importance of the review, the importance of understanding and comprehending. I mean, what do you think you're going to do when you get to law school classes? If you don't understand something, are you just going to move on to the next thing? That's not going to work. And
or in a legal matter and you're researching on behalf of your client and you get to a sticky area and you're just like, I've spent enough time on this area. I'm just going to go ahead and move on. Clock's ticking. It's like, okay, so you're going to lose. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Your Honor, I spent 2 hours investigating this case law and couldn't quite find the answer. So, that was, that's pretty decent amount of time. So thank you. Not going to work.
What other questions do we commonly get, Ashley?
Okay. Are Ben and Nathan friends in real life? That's my favorite one.
We do a pretty good job of pretending on the show, I guess. Yeah. No, we're friends in real life. Nathan actually came to my wedding and he had some speaking opportunity. I felt like it was pretty prominent. It was like right up there at the beginning.
I did speak in your wedding. Yeah. I slightly regret that I made my wedding speech more of like it was kind of like a roast of Ben, sort of, or it was all about Ben, but I know Ben way, way better than I know Maria. So, sorry, Maria. Anyway, I did speak at Ben's wedding. Our entire friendship is on the Thinking LSAT podcast. We started the podcast. We barely knew each other. And then, we have gotten to know each other very well over the years. So, yes, we've visited each other in our homes and I know Ben's kids and
Yep.
Oh, here's one. Is a goal score of X good enough if I don't care about going to a really prestigious school? And I can give some context here. I get students that write in and they'll say, my goal is to get a 165. I don't care about going to Harvard. I want to go to a local school. Is that good enough?
I think if you can go to law school for free, then I'm going to feel much more comfortable that it was good enough. But of course, even then, you may be on a conditional scholarship, or you may be paying a lot of money in terms of your time and other expenses. So was it good enough? I don't know. Could you have gotten a stipend somewhere else? But I would say, as long as you're going for free on an unconditional scholarship, that's a good indication that maybe it was good enough.
Yeah, I would agree. You ultimately have to decide what you're going to do with your legal career. And if you know that X regional school is going to get you to Y lawyer job, and if you know that you can go to X regional school for free for a certain LSAT score, then yeah, I mean, I can't tell you what to do with your life. But I have worked with, dozens or hundreds of students over the years who have ended up scoring far higher. I mean, way higher on their LSAT than they had ever thought possible before. And because of that, it's like, well, you thought you wanted to go to this regional school, but you also didn't know that you were capable of a 174. And once you got that 174, then you ended up applying to a couple schools that you never would have even thought about. And guess what? One of those schools gave you a really attractive offer. And you ended up just launching yourself on a whole different trajectory for your career. I'm not telling you that that's good or bad, really. I'm just saying that higher LSAT scores always open doors. And if you don't strive to get the best LSAT you can possibly achieve, then you're sort of just preemptively closing doors on yourself. So I'm always a little bit skeptical when people say, oh, no, my goal is a 162 because all I need is 162 is going to get me to the school I want to go to. It's like, well, yeah, OK, but you just might be capable of so much more. And I don't know why you would be foreclosing all of these possibilities by settling for a score.
Well, I think they're also just not following our order of operations here, right? Our order of operations is focus on your GPA, glad, take the LSAT, get the best score you can get, apply early, apply broadly, and then decide. And the reason the decision comes last is that you need to see what offers you have and then decide. They're flipping this around. They're looking at some local regional school and saying, okay, that's where I want to go. And I think when we make these kinds of decisions, oftentimes we don't know what assumptions are preemptively forcing us down this path.
Yeah.
That when on reflection might actually be silly. They might not be. I mean, maybe you're just stuck there because of family and other obligations, but sometimes they're assumptions too that take place between people. And you go talk to someone, you're like, hey, actually, you know what? I think I might be able to get into this school over in this other city. And they're like, yeah, let's move. I'm all for that. And you just didn't know. You assumed that they were dead set on staying close to family or whatever the assumption is that's guiding your decision making. But we think focus on your grades if you're still in school, take the LSAT, apply early, apply broadly, and then make your decision. And that decision may include not going.
Yeah. Frequently, I think people are getting advice. They're listening to advice from, maybe they know a student at the local law school, or maybe they're talking to the admissions office at the local law school, or maybe they're talking to a pre-law advisor from their undergrad who is biased in favor of the local law school. And frequently people just have this preconception like, oh, well, most people don't really improve their LSAT by that much, or most people really just max out around 160 and I'm almost there already. Or oh, this school is just fine for, why would I ever even need to go anywhere else? And it's like you're listening to I don't know, people who have not as broad of horizons, and they're giving you advice that's oriented toward just this one local option. And, what people don't realize is that they can get a 15-point improvement on their LSAT, or a 20-point improvement, or a 25-point improvement on their LSAT, sometimes 30-point improvement on their LSAT. And, I don't know, pre-law advisors don't tend to believe that that's possible. Regional law schools, it's like in their own best interest not to believe that that's possible, because they're like, oh, you're already at 158, you should apply today. Because they know that if you improve to a 168, you're going to have better options than that local school.
Well, there's an issue. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it, Ashley.
I was going to say, there's an issue of empowerment there too. This underlying, it's almost like thinking about it like a job interview. Like, please hire me. I'm on my knees. Here's everything I've got. Please let me into your school. And that's just not wouldn't you rather be empowered and be able to choose for yourself where you go? Like, it's like in a job interview. Like, yes, they're trying to decide if you're the right fit for the job, but you have to decide if they're the right company to work for. You're interviewing them too. And that's part of the LSAT being such an important part of your application process. Like, when you present them with that number, you get to decide based on what they offer. Like, you could have 5 schools offer you a full ride, and the school that you really wanted to go to offers you half, but you get to decide for yourself which one's the right fit for you. It takes some of that like monetary stress out of it.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say is that along those lines, yesterday in class, which was on May 8th, I read a comment in class, and the person had said that they had been studying for a few years, which is extraordinarily long, but they started in the 130s, and they were reporting in the chat that they had just scored 173 on one of their practice tests. And that's an unusual amount of time to be studying, but at the same time, that's all in the past. And they now are practice testing with a 173. I don't know what they're going to end up with officially, but something astronomically higher than the 130s, let alone the 140s, 150s, or even 160s. So who knows what they're going to end up doing, but everything is just going to be different now. And people I think that's one of those underlying assumptions. They don't believe they can make that sort of change. And so then, of course, you're going to just kind of try to set your sights lower.
For sure. Why are the demon people so aggressive or rude or mean? They make me feel stupid.
I actually think that the previous question is a perfect segue into that question. And I do feel like when people say the demon people, they probably mean me. The reason why I have the tone that I have is because I'm really trying to convince you to just flip this entire process on its head. It's because students have too low of expectations. And that's why I, at least, am going to be really direct. I'm just not going to blow smoke up your ass. And I think that's what people maybe are used to. I think that's what they get from their pre-law advisor. That's what they get certainly that's what they get from the law schools themselves. They just get nothing but little pats on the head, patronizing. Oh, yes, you should definitely apply right now today. Your LSAT and your GPA aren't very good. That's okay. You should apply anyway, because you're more than just numbers here. And they just, there's so much bullshitting going on that I'm not going to fuck around. Like, I'm going to be straightforward about it. And the other thing is, I'm not teaching gimmicks and tips and tricks for how to go a little bit faster, or how to narrow questions down to a 50-50, or cheesy guessing strategies. Like, if you're gonna guess, you should always guess D on this type of section and guess E on this other type of section. Like, it's such bullshit. It's like that. Oh yeah, that might give you like 1/10 of a point of higher expectation on your score. The thing that's going to give you a full point higher expectation on your score, or 10 full points higher expectation on your score, is to actually fucking understand this question. And so, like, I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna force you to actually understand it. And if not, then yeah, I mean, I guess that can be like, it feels aggressive or rude or mean or whatever, because people are forced to confront the fact that they don't actually understand something. But my goal is not to make you feel stupid. My goal is to teach you that this test actually makes sense. I mean, I say it in every class that the LSAT is easy. I honestly believe that the LSAT is easy if you take the time to let it be easy, or to make it easy. Ben looked like he was going to say something. I'll shut up.
Well, no, it's interesting because you said, and I think this is true, you don't want to make people feel stupid.
No.
But there could be some actual value there. Like, feeling stupid is a prompting to take action. So I think what you're really saying, and maybe I'm just totally off here, but you're saying, I don't want to make you feel stupid so that I feel good. No. Or that it's clearly not for that. And and if you don't need to feel stupid, I don't want you to feel stupid. But sometimes when people feel stupid, or really stupid is, maybe that's not even the right word, just feel negative emotion. Negative emotion is what drives us often to take action. And hopefully this doesn't, lead you to, one downside here is potentially that people end up not listening, right? They go, oh, they feel bad and they stop listening. And then they start getting information from other sources that may or may not be as helpful. We think our information is helpful. Some people could obviously disagree, but I don't know. Negative emotion serves a purpose, right? Sometimes it's the wake-up call to say, okay, I'm going to stop doing what I have been doing and start doing something different. Maybe that also doesn't work out, but you got to keep trying until you find it, because there's sure no way in hell that any of us are doing exactly what we should be doing today, right? There's always things where you can say, wait a sec, that's how I thought I should do things, but that's not the best, and I could change that and do things better. And usually that comes about because you feel something bad.
Yeah, maybe we're not for everybody.
Well, we can't be. You can't be for everybody. Right. It's just it's like biologically impossible, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to be for everybody. I want transformative improvement out of my students. I want to actually change the way you're gonna perceive the entire test. So if you want tips about how to go faster, or if you want shortcuts or guessing strategies, or which questions should I skip, or that type of shit, I'm not the right teacher for you, because I just don't want to give you a 7-point improvement. I want to give you a 17-point improvement or a 27-point improvement. And the way we're going to get there is by actually confronting the fact that you're not understanding the shit that you're reading. It's on the page in front of you and you're not reading it carefully enough, or you haven't practiced enough, some combination of those two things, and you're just not understanding it at all. People want to be, sometimes they want to be reassured when it's like, well, I finished the section and I got 16 points. Isn't that great? And it's like, no, that sucks. You missed 9 questions. You weren't actually doing it. You were guessing. You were like half guessing. And I want to get you to slow down, read every word, and really feel the click. Sometimes on logical reasoning, I think people have this perception because they read the argument, but they don't really understand it. They read the question, they immediately start looking at answer choices. Then they're comparing answer choices to one another. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. Stop. I'll interrupt people and I'll say, hey, stop. I only want to talk about the argument here. Can you tell me why that argument is dumb? Like, can you tell me why that argument sucks? Because if you can tell me why the argument sucks, then you already know the answer to the question. And in people's pursuit of speed, they're getting into the answer choices and they're comparing answer choices back and forth. And one of them at least is wrong. Maybe both of your answer choices that you think are good are both wrong. And it's like, no, stop it. Let's go back to this actual argument. And I'm trying to get people to react to it in a real world, common sense sort of a way. Like, listen, if somebody presented you with that evidence and then they tried to tell you that because of this evidence, this conclusion is also like, they know that conclusion for sure. If someone tried to tell you that in real life, if you actually thought about it, you would tell them that they're idiots. You would say, no, that conclusion does not follow from those facts. And at that point, you would have already answered the question. But instead, students get so caught up in getting into the answer choices. And I don't know, it's like, yes, I for sure have a direct way about like, listen, we got to do the actual work that needs to be done here instead of this, like, you know, keep it moving, gimmicky strategy, compare two answers to one another. People, this is an example of where people think I'm mean in class. They'll go, but if D wasn't there, then B could be the answer, right? And I'm like, no, it could not. Absolutely not. Like, and I'll tell you, I already did tell you why, but I'm happy to tell you again. And I'm not trying to be mean to them. I'm just saying, no, because we're not weighing and balancing. We're not picking the best answer. We're picking the right answer, and we're not picking any of the wrong answers. And this other answer that you think is like second best or also good or whatever, I'm sorry, but there are reasons, potentially multiple reasons, why that answer is wrong. And people hate to be told that they're wrong. So yeah, I think that's part of it. I don't know. Well, I just guess I should also say that there's far more to the LSAT demon than me and Ben. I mean, I teach a couple times a week, 2.5 times a week. Ben teaches once a week. But we have a whole team of really awesome teachers, including your husband, Brandon, who students repeatedly talk about as being extremely compassionate and like really, you know, like rah, get everybody on the same team. So we have lots of different styles of teachers that you will hear sometimes on our podcasts. But, you know, you get a lot of me on this podcast. And so I think some people think that that's what the whole demon is like, and it's really not.
So they'll go to Nathan's class, get bruised up a little bit, and then be resuscitated in Brandon's class and so forth. So that's the idea. Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. You just keep going. You got this.
Yeah.
Well, and I love this question, but it also kind of drives me crazy because, like, I mean, you're right. It doesn't feel good to be told that you're wrong or you don't understand something, but what are you going to do when you're in a gigantic class with all of these really smart people? What are you going to do in the courtroom when you're arguing with someone? Are you just going to say, hey, you're being rude. I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to go somewhere else now. Like,
yeah,
I can personally attest. I have met Nate and Ben both. I interact with all the teachers and everybody. And if you think that we are mean, you are going to have a rude awakening. You are going to have a hard time staring down a judge.
That's a good point. I mean, you're going into an adversarial system. You're going into a system that has winners and losers.
And is highly competitive. Like,
it's highly competitive. It's zero sum in many cases. It's not really this like collaborative, feel good type of an environment. There's right answers and there's wrong answers. And when you go to law school, you're going to be ranked ruthlessly against each other. And then the employers are going to come in and they're going to like only want to talk to the people who did well in the classes. And if you didn't do quite as well as the person sitting next to you, then they're just not going to want to interview you. And yeah, there is true and false, right? There is right and wrong. And on the LSAT, it's stark. I mean, there's just one perfectly justifiable answer and 4 wrong answers. And we have to get our heads wrapped around the idea that there is one answer that perfectly makes sense. And it's not like your opinion doesn't really matter. There's one credited answer. People don't like to be told that either.
Yeah, that's hard. But I mean, when you work in law, in whatever capacity you do, whatever kind of law you pursue, the things that you do will dramatically affect the lives of other people, even if it's just one person that you're representing or advocating for. So you got to be a little tough and you got to be careful, and you can't get your feelings hurt because you are affecting the lives of a lot of people and you have to take it seriously.
Yeah.
For the record, I don't think you guys are mean or rude or anything. And we really only see this question on Reddit for what it's worth.
Yeah,
yes,
okay,
I did. All my bias. Yeah, no, this one pretty much comes from Reddit. So whatever that tells you.
What else we got?
So this is the last one that I had picked. I have some others if you want to go through them. But this one is my partner, child, spouse, grandchild, etc. is studying for the LSAT. What can I do to help support them?
The first thing that comes to my mind is try to make space for them for an hour or so a day. If you can, if you have kids and your partner can take the kids for an hour and give them the space they need to study, that can go a long way. And give them time. I think a lot of people a lot of friends and family put unnecessary deadlines on those people who are trying to get ready for the test. And so there's this idea that I've got to go this cycle, and that's when the cycle starts. Aren't you going to law school? What's the plan here? And although they would get into law school sooner, this can have dramatic effects on what's going to happen down the road.
This is almost exclusively parents who are doing this.
Yeah.
And yeah, for parents, if you're asking what can I do to help and support my child in this LSAT journey, the very first thing I would say is that you need to let go of any type of specific time frame. I know you want them to go to law school yesterday, but they can't go to law school yesterday, and tomorrow might not be right either. And they need to take whatever time is necessary to really demonstrate to the law schools what they're capable of. If they're still in undergrad, maybe they shouldn't be studying for the LSAT at all. I mean, if they're not getting straight A's or A pluses, if the school offers A pluses, then, why are they studying for the LSAT? Because they should be studying for their actual classes instead. Grades first. Then if they are getting straight A's, or if they've already graduated, then they should start thinking about the LSAT, and they should work on the LSAT until they have achieved their maximum potential, whatever that is, on an official test. And parents don't realize that law schools only care about your child's highest score. Parents don't realize that many, if not most, applicants are taking the LSAT multiple times. The savvy applicants are definitely taking the LSAT multiple times. I think sometimes parents come in with a self-imposed, oh, well, but you're going to only take it once. You're going to prepare. You're going to take this class for 2.5 months, and then you're going to take the LSAT, and that's it. And you're done with it. And then you're going to have to apply this fall or whenever, this cycle right now, you have to apply. You got to let go of all of that stuff. You got to just decide, hey, I have 3 chances at this test this cycle and 5 chances at the test if I spread it across multiple cycles. Basically, if I just cross the magical August boundary, then I can take it a couple more times. So you might be able to take it 5 times officially. And your goal isn't to take it 5 times officially. Your goal is to get a score on record that really demonstrates your actual promise. And we don't know what that is until your kid has done a dozen practice tests or more, 2 dozen or 3 dozen, or some people do all 100 of these practice tests. And I see parents all the time. I mean, I feel so bad for these kids. There are kids who are just paralyzed in my classes by fear. They're afraid of their parents. They just can't, they have to rush into taking the test right now, because if not, their parents will disapprove. And that's so unfortunate. I mean, it's like heartbreaking to see these kids who it's like, oh, wow. So in an effort to please your parents, you're then going to do this process totally wrong. You're going to end up with a mediocre LSAT. You're going to end up going to some mediocre school. You and your parents potentially are going to end up paying for this, an overpriced JD when you could have just worked on your LSAT more and gone to law school for free. So it's kind of like, stop, parents, stop doing that.
Yeah, educate yourselves, right? Google LSAT Demon Parents Night, watch that video and understand exactly what's going on here. I think if you do, you realize there's just a win-win-win all around by getting your LSAT score up. You can go for a lot less money, you can go to a much better school, and then even better, you can be in the top of your class at whatever school you end up going to, which is going to dramatically increase your odds for getting a good job once you graduate. So it's just all around better. You just don't see the benefits. That's what it is. They don't see the benefits. All they see is maybe laziness or, hey, why are you taking so long? This is procrastination. I've known you since you were a baby, and look how, you're like a kid and you're not moving forward. It's like, actually, wait, hold on. Here's a situation where they need to take more time and do it right. And you just don't understand. They just don't understand. They need more information. And once they get that information, then they can actually flip that around and become an advocate, right? Like, okay, what do you need to make this LSAT score thing happen? How can we help? In any case, yeah, I hope that helps people.
Partners and spouses, I think you just need to encourage them to not take it too seriously, but as Ben said, to help give them that one high quality hour every day. And I actually think as a partner or a spouse, you might be able to help your partner confine it to a 1 hour, maybe 2 hours a day. But the studying 5 hours a day or 7 hours a day that's not the best way to prep for this test. You should do it slow and steady, like a fitness regime. You can't do it all in one day. You got to spread it out. You got to take your time with it. And if they can just find that one high quality hour, what do we mean by high quality hour? Well, they should be rested. They should be fed. They should be not distracted, right? It needs to be, it's not, also take care of the kids while you're doing this.
Can you watch the dog? The dog will be here.
Shit like that. People, yeah, exactly. Yeah, but make sure that you take what's her name out if she starts whining. It's like, okay, all I'm asking for is 1 hour, but I would really like that hour to be just in isolation and quiet.
Yeah. Go to the library. Go somewhere if you have to.
Yeah, maybe encourage your partner or your spouse to go study somewhere else. Like, yes, I love you, honey. I love having you around the house, but we know that there are going to be distractions if you're here. And if you can just go somewhere, or lock a door and put on the noise canceling headphones or whatever, because it's only an hour, but it needs to be a high quality hour. Otherwise, you're just, you're not being efficient at studying for the test. And you're also not being efficient at taking care of the kids. You're being bad at two things instead of just being good at one.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned the most recent Parents' Night class, because that's a great resource for this kind of thing. If you have any other resources, so your spouse decided they want to go to law school and they're studying for the LSAT, here's the stuff you need to know. If you have anything like that, please send it my way or put it in the show notes or something, because that would be so helpful.
I mean, the thing that I always keep pushing people back to is lsatdemon.com/scholarships.
Yeah.
I think people just need to understand how much money is at play here. They just don't, no one gets it. I think when they hear scholarships, they also think, well, that doesn't apply to me. Or, okay, yeah. I've been through the scholarship game in undergrad, and that was $1,000 here, $2,000 there. It was a joke. A lot of those didn't even come through. And if you go to the scholarship estimator, you can see, no, we're not talking about a couple $1,000s 1 year. We're talking about full rides or more than half tuition scholarships, or sometimes even stipends. But, see what's at play here. And I think once people get their minds wrapped around it, the cost in terms of time and effort to put into the LSAT makes a lot more sense.
Or the no-go decision starts making a lot more sense.
Sure.
I do think that spouses should really educate themselves about the finances of this endeavor. Go to lsatdemon.com/scholarships and look at the scholarship estimator, but click a little further into it. Find the law school that you think your spouse might go to and click the link to the 509 report and actually look at hey, here's how many people are at this school paying zero, or here's how many people are at this school who are not only paying zero tuition, but they're actually getting a stipend from the school. Now let's put that in context of this school is going to try to charge my spouse $55,000 a year to go to this school. But
which means they're charging you. That's your
right.
That's your retirement. That's your money that's
Yeah.
coming out to pay for some people you will never even see because you're not even in class.
You got to be brutally honest about this whole thing. You know, the law schools are going to try to sell you a dream. And maybe that's also another reason why I think people think I'm mean or we're mean, is like we're not in the dream selling business. That's not who we are. Like if our whole business went away because everybody decided to walk away from law school, that wouldn't be the end of the world for us. We'd be like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense because law school is wildly overpriced. It does not lead to the kind of job outcomes that the schools try to promise you. And you've really got to be entering this with eyes wide open. So, yeah, I would investigate exactly how these finances work. I would also, be realistic. Your spouse is going to be in law school for 3 years without an income for probably the entire time. Or maybe they make some money during the summer, or they figure out a way to make some money working part-time during their 2L or 3L year. But we're talking about a huge investment of tuition, a huge investment of time, huge opportunity cost lost for 3 years of no income. I mean, and then they're going to start studying for the bar. Like then they're going to pay $6,000 to Kaplan or Barbary or whatever so that they can start studying for the bar. Huh. Then they're going to maybe pass the bar or maybe not. I mean, depends on, what kind of school are you looking at here? What's the bar passage rate of that school? What are the odds that your spouse is actually going to recoup this huge
time
investment?
and money. Yeah. Well, this gets us back to making that hour a day for them. If you can't do that, if life is just too chaotic and there's just not the space,
how are you going to make 3 years for them?
Yeah, and way more hours than 1 hour. They got to go to class. They got to study. It's a job. So,
yeah, if you end up talking your spouse out of it, if you have some clear-eyed discussions about this, and you got to be okay with the idea that there are other things that people could do with their lives besides going to law school, and that this probably isn't, on average, this isn't what they think it is. Most people don't know what they're getting themselves into. So I would encourage my spouse to, for example, get a job working in a law firm for a while before they go any further down this road. People want to dive right in. Oh, no, because I'm not going to be a legal assistant. No, I'm going to be a lawyer. So I'm already
28.
The JD. Yeah. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Instead of paying $55,000 a year of tuition and not having any income for 3 years, and then figuring out what kind of law you want to do or what it's actually like to be a lawyer, instead of that, you could take a job inside a law firm. They pay you. And they might not pay you much, but they pay you. And you can quit at any time. You can figure out what it actually is like. And so many people, once they do that, they quit, by the way. I mean, they get one look inside of a law office and they're like, oh my God, that's what it's like. And then they decide not to do it anymore.
Yeah, they're looking at the attorneys who are there later than they are.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashley. Is there anything else that you think we should talk about from all the interactions you have with people on social media?
Yeah, I mean, I have some that are kind of more ask button-y, but if you guys have more things to go over, we can save it for another time or something.
Yeah, if there's nothing that sticks out to you, we do have a lot to cover on this agenda, so maybe we should just jump into it. But yeah, thanks for sharing. Did you want to stay or do you want to?
I'll probably let you guys go on ahead.
She listens to us enough. She'll hear it on the podcast. She doesn't need to hear the unedited version of it.
Sounds good.
Well,
thanks,
thank
Ashley.
you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate you.
See everybody on Instagram.
Okay. See ya.
All right, Ben, we got this. We got these items here. Some of our listeners actually responded. Thank you very much. on what it takes to become an ABA accredited law school. We haven't looked at these resources yet, so maybe we'll just kind of mention them in passing and then move along. But you want to read this first one here from Bonnie?
Yeah, it says, "Hey Ben, read Against the Tide by Debbie Hagen or the memoirs of Lawrence Vavel to learn the story of one upstart law school's uphill fight to gain ABA accreditation." I looked on Amazon, and here's the summary of the book, Against the Tide. Against the Tide is a carefully constructed reporting of the Massachusetts School of Law's struggle to become a fully accredited legal educational institution for minority students and or those with limited financial resources. It is a detailed account of several legal educators' struggle to diversify legal education against corrupt personalities and politically influential establishment forces. Okay. So that alone makes me think, well, shit, it sounds like it's hard to become ABA accredited. On some level, that shouldn't be a surprising thing. We have some more, we have another email here from Jonathan. Jonathan, your email is starting to look a little bit like a legal memo. I mean, congrats to you. I'm just going to read two of the points here.
Okay.
Anyways, John said, point 1, according to the ABA standards and rules of procedure for approval of law schools, which is apparently in section 6, rule 22, A3, quote, a law school may not apply for provisional approval until it has completed the first full academic year of operating a full-time program of legal education.
So you actually have to start the school and go for a full academic year before you'll even know whether you're going to be accredited. Okay.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That is tough. It's not, hey, this is what we are going to do. This is what we are doing. And you have to get people to come on board to that. I mean, I don't know who they're admitting or who wants to go to a non-accredited ABA school.
Well, point 2, I think, explains it a bit.
A little bit. Schools seeking ABA approval start off by being state bar approved schools. An example is California. This would be the first point of entry. California is probably the laxest. That surprises me, by the way, since California seems to have a lot of rules. But their requirements, even for the unaccredited law schools, are that the program must be no less than 32 months long. And then he provides a link to the guidelines.
Why? Why? What is the point of that? That is brutal.
Well,
32 months. 32
months is brutal. And notice Jonathan goes on to he provides some other points and rules, but this is how he concludes. Lastly, I assume that schools going through this process will eventually become ABA schools if they choose to. But seeing the complicated process, I can see why many of these schools decide on the state bar route and stay there. Because there are schools, right, that are accredited in California, but not ABA accredited. I feel like you've mentioned them on the show before.
Yeah, there are lots of California bar accredited schools. When I was teaching in San Francisco, there was the San Francisco Law School, which is just accredited by the California State Bar. It seemed almost identical to but it charges way, way less because it's not ABA accredited. That doesn't change, though, that it will allow you to sit for the state bar. I mean, the only difference is that you have to take the baby bar between your first and second year. You've got to do well enough on the baby bar, or else you can't continue your second year of law school. But if you pass the baby bar, which I mean you should, because if you're not passing the baby bar, then you're very unlikely to pass the real bar. Then yeah, you just go to your second year, go to your third year, take the official test. Take the bar exam, and you're a practicing attorney in the state of California. And it's vastly cheaper, way, way cheaper, because these schools aren't as prestigious. I mean, not at all. They're not. And there are many big law firms that are like, no way in hell we're ever going to hire from this state accredited school, because we need attorneys who are going to potentially be able to be barred in any state. And, I guess they're just skeptical of schools that don't have that blanket ABA approval.
Well, I want to share one more thing here and then talk about what I think is actually going on here. Eric said, hey, here are some standards. He looked at the ABA standards that might complicate the creation of the fully online law school of your dreams. A fully online law school of my dreams would be something that would be astronomically shorter, astronomically cheaper, much more targeted to the skills that actually help attorneys become attorneys, right? So it would be totally detached from the current system. But Eric writes, here are some standards. 303B says, for example, that you have to provide opportunities for clinics, field placements, and pro bono work. 311A says that you have to have at least 64 credit hours, and that require regular classroom attendance and faculty instruction. A virtual classroom, if approved, would likely still require a live teacher. So we can't have any pre-recorded content. That's one thing we had actually talked about, because that would astronomically save on costs, right? You get the best lecture, you pre-record it, and then you replay that over and over again. Anyways, I look at Eric listed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more regulations, which, by the way, the lowest one is numbered 702A. So I don't know how many there actually are, but it makes me think of this one book I read several years ago, and it was basically about how regulations come in and usually solve the problems that they're intended to solve at first. But then the regulated get very familiar with the regulations and start to tweak them in ways that actually end up helping them quite dramatically, but in ways also that people just don't really recognize at all. And I'm sure that if you're a law school and you can continue to add more and more requirements to this list that you satisfy, you are guaranteeing that disruptive technologies or schools cannot come in and upend your business.
This is obviously regulations that benefit the regulated, for sure. I mean, look at 403. Most teaching must be done by full-time faculty, including the entire first third of the education.
What the hell?
Why? How does that benefit the students? You'd rather have someone who hasn't been in a courtroom for 30 years teaching me about negligence instead of an actual practicing attorney who is familiar with how negligence is practiced in the field right now. I mean, that obviously benefits the big entrenched law schools, and it's a huge barrier to entry for some upstart. How could anybody start? I mean, you're going to have full-time faculty teaching the entire first year probably of the education. I went to UC Hastings, San Francisco College of the Law, whatever they call it now. At that school, my best faculty, my best professors were definitely adjuncts. There were some pretty good tenured professors. There were lots of terrible full-time faculty. I mean, terrible. Just no interest in teaching, no interest in us as students, 100% interested in their own research. They were garbage faculty. And that was, the full-time faculty. And then there were adjuncts who were practicing attorneys who were super passionate about their actual work and would tell us stories from actual legal practice, which I found immensely more valuable than a full-time.
Well, I mean, to your point, this one stupid rule necessitates and guarantees the jobs of how many faculty across the country? Totally inefficient, totally unnecessary. What should the goal of law school be? It should be to educate the students who attend about the legal system and process. Right? Like, that's the goal. None of these things. But what's funny is every time you add a requirement, the regulated, the law schools look like, it's for the good of the student. We're imposing this rule upon them so that they can provide you with a quality education. Bullshit. This is just
right. Well, I can just see the entrenched law schools looking at these regs and going, you need to add section 601. You must maintain a library with a full-time director.
Oh my God.
It's like, because we're big enough or because we're stupid enough to have built this gigantic building full of books that no one uses. And we have a full-time library director to manage the whole building full of books that no one uses in the modern world. But like, how long is that requirement going to stay here in these ABA regs? Probably forever.
Probably.
It's just never going to change because the entrenched, I mean, the regulated have no incentive to lobby to get that regulation taken out. That regulation protects them from all kinds of different competitors.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've probably beaten this to death. Eric, in the last line, he says, I suspect that you'd hate running a law school even more than you hated going to law school. And I think that is 1,000% true. So maybe we can just shelve this idea.
I do think that's true to the extent that we have to follow these regulations. But if we could dramatically change the way legal education is done, I'd be interested.
Yes, that's a big caveat.
It's a big caveat. And this unfortunately has really shut the door on that. I did have this one question in my mind though. I was like, well, is there any way to radically change things without the ABA accreditation and without the state bar accreditation? And I don't know that there is, but boy, I hate this system. I will say that.
It's a money grab. I mean, like the course of study must be completed in 24 to 84 months. It's crazy that they even put a maximum on it. That's like the maximum that you can keep charging people. 84 months. That's a long time.
They don't care about that, right? Yeah.
The minimum of 24 months, you have to be there for a solid full 2 years. It's not possible that you could be prepared to practice law in less than the 24 months. Well, hold on a sec, because there is a bar exam and you have to take the bar exam in order to be able to practice. Many people who do a course of study that's 36 months or whatever the typical thing is for 3 years, many of those people end up failing the bar exam.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you just have the bar exam? Or if your requirements are actually so stringent for the legal education, then why don't you get rid of the bar exam?
Yeah. What's the point of that?
But they have both of them instead. It's like they realize that these schools are not going to do an adequate job. So they also have to have this bar exam. But then why have a minimum on how long the education can last? Because if you can pass the bar exam, then presumably you're fit to practice law. But no, because the schools need to collect at least a couple of years worth of tuition off of you before, this is also like, it's a guild, right? This is the bar has pretensions of being a consumer protection organization, but what they turn out to be is an organization that protects those who are already barred from competition.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And that's what that book was also about. It's just those who are regulated become the supreme experts in those regulations. And the regulations are intended to benefit consumers, but consumers have no fucking clue, nor the vested interest. They don't have
lobbyists that they pay.
Or their whole livelihood depends on it, right? It does not. So even if they see it being fucked up, like how much effort are you going to expend to change it? Anyways, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Jonathan and Bonnie, for writing in. That ship is sailing away. This next email here is from Patrick. The subject is fatigue.
It says, hey, Ben and Nathan, I've been listening to your podcast and studying for the LSAT for just under 2 weeks. My diagnostic was a 155 and I scored a 161 on my last practice test. Towards the end of the test, my ability to pick up information and work with it diminishes significantly. I'm wondering if you can offer any tips to help train myself against mental fatigue. I'll let you go first.
Sure. Your diagnostic was a 155. That's fucking amazing. I imagine you have a lot of potential here to get into the high 160s and hopefully 170s for sure. Patrick, just keep getting better at the test and stop worrying about the full practice tests. As you get better at understanding the information and understanding what you're reading, it will get easier for you to do that and therefore make it easier for you to finish tests. It's just going to happen naturally.
Yeah. It's like, you know, you started off bench pressing 155 and now you're up to 161 bench pressing, but you get tired at the end of your workout. Well, that's because you just need to keep working out. You need to get stronger. You need to get better at what you're doing. You need to develop those muscles. I don't think you're going to have fatigue when you get better at the content of the test. Patrick, starting off at 155, as Ben said, is amazing. And you've already made some progress. And you need to stop worrying about fatigue. Stop even thinking about fatigue. And instead, just one question at a time, solve that question. It is going to be taxing while you're not fully understanding things. But with a diagnostic of 155, you can get to the point where you're actually going to fully understand the entire test. And when you fully understand the entire test, then it's no longer going to be heavy lifting. So it's not tips. It's not tricks. It's just not what we really do at LSAT Demon. We're going to, show you how to work out properly and encourage you to work out regularly. And you're going to get much, much stronger and not have nearly as much fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for writing in. This next email or question, I guess, is actually from Abigail. That's Demon team member Abigail. She sent in this ask button question about a determined question on a logic game. It says, "Hi team, I got this question wrong because I didn't understand what it was asking me. When I realized that I don't fully understand what determined questions are asking in general. So how do I go about understanding what this kind of question means and how to attack it? Thanks in advance." Okay, so this is from test 65, question 4. It says, "The order in which the students perform is fully determined if which one of the following is true." Oh, this is interesting. This is a what is it? Answers driven question in the logic games. That is super rare, right? In logic games, it's almost always passage driven or game driven. You're taking the information from the passage or from the game and you're trying to figure out what must be true or what follows from that. In this case, they're saying, hey, which one of the following answers, if it were true, would allow me to completely determine the order of the students in which they perform.
Yeah, fully determined. Fully meaning totally, 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Determined in this context means you know what's what. So like we do elections to determine who's going to win. Bad analogy maybe, but you know who won, or in this context, it's going to be determining exactly who goes in what group or who. Yeah. What was the question? Read the question again to me one more time.
Sure. The order in which the students perform is fully determined if which one of the following is true.
Right. So fully determined in this context means you know the exact order of the students, all of them, not just some of them, not most of them, not almost all of them, but all of them. You know fully the order exactly with no question marks.
Yep.
If one of those answers is true. So which one of those answers is going to trigger a chain reaction such that all of the ducks are in a row?
Yeah. You could think of these 5 answer choices as 5 potential new rules. Which new rule, if it were added to the game, would determine now the game is fully determined. It's fully fixed. Everything has been set up and there's nothing you don't know.
Okay, 3 more emails. I'll take this one from Sophie. Subject is 166 plateau plus 1 test left to achieve my goal of 170 plus and a full ride to Duke. Hi, Ben and Nathan. I am in dire need of your feedback. For context, I took the LSAT wholly unprepared in November of 2021 and got a score in the 130s. I then realized that I needed accommodations and subsequently got those accommodations and an expensive private tutor. With that tutor's help, I jumped to a 159 on the November 22 test, then to a 166 on the January 23 test, and now I'm plateaued at a 166, another 166 on the April 23 test. That's not a plateau though, Sophie. That's 2 random data points that happen to be the same. Anyway, I have 1 shot left in August, but I can't afford the private tutor any longer. and feel like I may have gotten everything I can out of working with him. But I also feel so grateful for his guidance and help getting to the score I have now. I have done almost every practice test. I was expecting a score in the 170s this time, seeing as I have PT'd in that range and have even gotten a 180 twice. Obviously, though, something needs to change. I am consistently at -0 on logic games, minimum of -2, max of -5 on reading comp, and usually -4 or 5 on logical reasoning. My goal is to get into Duke with a full ride. How should I proceed? Sincerely, Sophie. What are you going to tell Sophie, Ben?
I'm pausing here because if Sophie has done all the practice tests, and I don't know if you have actually, are you a Demon member? You can find more tests in our premium and live tiers than you can find in Law Hub. So I'm hoping there are some practice tests that she could take that she hasn't seen before. I don't have a problem with her repeating previous practice tests, but when you're scoring 180 on them, I wonder how much of them you just remember from before or something like that. And maybe you're not getting an opportunity to learn from your mistakes. You still are making mistakes in reading comp and in logical reasoning.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn there.
You've got to learn it one question at a time is the thing. I mean,
yeah.
Why are you missing those questions? That's really the only question here is what is it that is making you miss questions on reading comp and on logical reasoning? I mean, people do get to perfect on logical reasoning and people get to perfect on reading comp, and you're not. You're like always missing some questions, although not on the tests where you scored 180. So sometimes you got a little bit lucky and sometimes you got a little bit unlucky. My hypothesis, Sophie, is that you're right now a 173 average ±7. And that's not uncommon. You know, you're like a data point in your range. 173 would be the most common. If I had to make a bet on one number, you know, when you take the LSAT again for your 5th attempt, 173 seems like the most likely score. So I think you're probably going to get in the 170s. But there are 160s that are well within your range, and there is a 180 that's within your range. And I don't know which one's going to actually pop up on test day. You have a range of possible outcomes. And I don't be so fast to claim that you're at a plateau just because you got the same score twice in a row. If you feel like you've been understanding more as you've been prepping, then you are understanding more, and your scores eventually should reflect that, which they have on many of your practice tests. But it's also the truth that you're just not that good at reading comp and you're not that good at logical reasoning. And so if you're asking me, why am I not that good at reading comp and why am I not that good at logical reasoning? Well, we would have to look at specific individual mistakes, which is what your tutor should have been doing. If you were a Demon Live subscriber, and I know Sophie has been a Demon Live subscriber in the past, you know, come to class and talk about your actual mistakes, because that's where the learning is going to come from. That's how I would proceed.
Yeah. Focus on those questions. I mean, it's a bummer that she has only one more test. So that means you really want to try to edge your range up higher by fixing those mistakes, even though you have even seen a 180 twice, right? In most cases, it'd be like, yeah, you're ready to go take the test, but I don't want her to waste the test now that she has only one left.
She's so score focused, or this question is so score focused, you know, and it just makes me think that you weren't doing the actual proper review. Like if as a Demon student, I would not necessarily be recommending expensive private tutoring, although we do have expensive private tutors, but we've got the ask button, which is for free for every LSAT Demon student. And, you know, as an LSAT Demon student, missing reading comp questions, missing LR questions, well, why? Why are you missing those questions? The written explanations are there to help you. The video explanations are there to help you. And we've got a whole team of amazing tutors behind that ask button if you just ask. Those are the right questions to ask.
Yeah.
Two more emails. You want to take this one from Algernon? Subject is diversity statement from all male college, question mark.
Hey, Ben and Nathan, I figure you guys will probably hate this idea, but I wanted to run it past you anyway. I go to one of only 4 all-male colleges in the United States. It's given me a really unique perspective on college and the value of other viewpoints that are brought into make sure the students here know what the world is really like. I'm a little skeptical of that claim already. I mean, how would you know whether your perspective is unique or not, and whether the viewpoints they're bringing in? I mean, I didn't even know these existed till right now, but okay.
Well, it's you know, it's not unique because there are 4 of these colleges and there are however many hundreds or thousands of students at these colleges. So it's definitely not unique. You do have an unusual perspective on college. I'm skeptical of the value of other viewpoints that are brought in to make sure the students here know what the world is really like. I need an example of that. Like, are you saying that they brought in a girl one time and like asked her, hey, can you tell us what the world is like?
What did you think of this class discussion today? Huh? Did you like it, or was it?
Yeah. I don't understand what you're talking about there. But anyway, should we continue?
Do you think it would be a bad idea to write a short diversity statement explaining the value of this unique educational experience? I think it's a bad idea right now just because I don't think you know whether it's unique or not, and you're just going to end up sounding confused
and don't use the word
uninformed. Unique. Yeah.
Stop saying unique. But
okay, he continues, just because I know this will come up, I'm not currently writing my applications. Still focusing on LSAT and GPA, but wanted to go ahead and get the idea off my chest. Diversity from an all-male college? I don't see where this is going. That's going to be a win. You need to provide me with more evidence as to why this would be a good idea. Right now, it sounds bad.
You're not going to an all-male law school. So how does you coming from an all-male undergrad experience provide meaningful diversity to?
It honestly sounds worse. If I were an admissions office, I would be like, okay, so the perspective you're bringing is a male-centric view that's been highly reinforced by an all-male environment. I mean, the whole point of diversity goals, I think, is to get people to interact with people different from themselves in some way, whatever way that is, so that they can get different perspectives. It honestly, like, I don't know how these colleges work, but you're in a classroom with just men. There's no like foil to be like, well, hey, maybe the ideas you're sharing here are only informed by one perspective, only half of the society. I like what?
We don't know what Algernon's examples are. Right.
We don't know what but even then, like, it's only, you brought in this, it's curated content.
A token. Like, you brought in a token, people that don't look like you. And then from that, the thing that makes me really cringe is an undergrad trying to tell, like, this is an undergrad who wants to tell the law schools that they know what the world is really like.
What?
And it's like
you don't know what the world is really like until you go experience it. And
you don't know what the world is really like until you die. I mean, I think, I don't know, speaking from my mid 40s, I can tell you that I have changed way more in my 40s than I ever thought was possible. And, we've seen weird shit happen historically that we never would have anticipated. 9/11 and COVID. And it's like, there's just the idea that you could ever know what the world is really like. I think it sort of just betrays your own naivety. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Algernon. I hope you do well on the LSAT. This this next email is from Marie. The subject is trying out the demon and need help with a study schedule.
Hi, Ben and Nathan. I plan to apply for law school in this upcoming admission cycle. I decided on applying for law school a little late in the game. Oh, dear God. Okay, so already I think Ben and I are both wary here because you've committed to this cycle because you feel like you're late in the game. And that already means you're doing it wrong, because you should instead be focusing on your grades. If you're already done with school, then forget about that. Then focusing on your LSAT. And you really shouldn't be thinking about the application cycle. You're not late in the game. You're early for the next application cycle.
Yeah.
You just got to change your perspective. Anyway, they go on. Marie goes on and says, I've gone back and forth for about a year, but when my postgraduate job plans didn't work out how I thought, I viewed it as a sign that I should apply and try to enter law school in fall of 2024. You want to comment, Ben?
Your postgraduate job plans didn't work out, so that was a sign that you should now go to law
specifically to law school right now.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
There's no logical connection there.
No. Just because you failed as an engineer or whatever, that doesn't mean you should now go to law school, let alone go to law school right now. Like applying late. You are late in the, if you're just now starting a diagnostic test or whatever, then that's real late in the cycle for somebody who wants to start law school in fall of 2024. Like we want your applications in the fall of 2023 if you're going to go to law school in fall of 2024. And it's theoretically possible you could take the August LSAT and kill it and apply right away. But then you'd only be giving yourself one bite at it instead of giving yourself 3 or 5 bites at it. Why would you do it that way? That's a dumb way to do it. So like the fact that your previous job plan didn't work out, that's not any kind of sign. Maybe it's a sign that that's not the right field for you, but it's not a sign that law is the right field for you. And it's definitely not a sign that you should start law school as soon as possible. Marie continues.
This is just making me think of the LSAT. It's like, what is it?
That is an error of reasoning on the LSAT. I mean, that's a flaw of logic there where it's like, essentially your premise just doesn't support your conclusion at all. It's like you're citing your relevant evidence.
Think about it this way. You're going into the fridge and you take out an apple and it turns out to be rotten. And you're like, oh, wow, this didn't work out. Therefore, therefore the banana is going to be ripe, right? Or the banana is going to be
ripe. Yeah, I thought you were going to say, therefore, I should eat cake.
Yeah, why not? Right? I should eat cake or something.
We do that too all the time, don't we? It's like, oh, my plans for healthy didn't work out, so therefore, Domino's, just straight to the worst option.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
yes, but it's true. The fact that the apple is rotten does not mean that the banana is fresh.
Yeah.
That's where Ben was going before I interrupted him. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Marie continues. I just graduated a few days ago. Oh, wow. So you graduated and you didn't get the job you thought you were going to get. And you're taking that as a sign that you should immediately start law school. Bad plan, Marie. Thank you so much for asking us for advice, but that is a very bad plan. You should get any other job so that you have an income.
Yep.
Then you should, if law school is really in the cards, you should prepare for the LSAT as long as you need to prepare in order to get a truly awesome score. And then things will work out for you fantastic. But if you decide, oh no, I'm just going to study for the LSAT full time this summer and apply right away, that's bad times. That's not going to work out the way you think it is. Anyway, Marie continues, I finished my diagnostic test and I scored 150 with accuracy between 45 and 60%. So basically you finished the entire test with terrible accuracy and got a 150. I've listened to the podcast before and I know your recommendation is to wait to take the LSAT when I'm ready. But do you think with drilling 2 hours daily, I can make significant improvements by the September/October LSAT? I think I have a good shot at the top 14 law schools. I have a 3.88 UGPA. I am a Black woman with plenty of achievements and recognitions, blah, 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 Marie writes. I know I really want to score above a 170. I just don't know how long it will take for it to click. Feel free to roast me. Thanks. Smiley face, Marie.
Well, it sounds like she knows what's coming. I mean, our advice is to wait to take the LSAT when you're ready. If that is in September and October, then take it. But whether it will be or not, we don't know. We don't know how you're going to study, what you're going to struggle with as you study. I mean, a diagnostic of 150 is a decent starting spot. So
it's a great starting spot, but that's not a reason to try to force the application this cycle. In fact, it's the exact opposite.
yeah, like you have the potential to go up quite a bit. So don't throw that potential away just so that you can gain what? You don't even gain anything, just so you can enjoy the fact that you're starting sooner than later. I feel like Marie didn't get the job and now really wants to get back into school, wants to be doing something. But what for? Do it right. Don't do it quickly.
Ben, do you believe that things happen for a reason?
No, I don't. I don't. That's an interesting question.
Neither do I.
Because there's a time in my life when I did. So like coming to terms with that, but no, I don't. Yeah. It seems
don't.
like a lot of randomness.
I think it's a lot of randomness. And so this randomness, maybe it opened the door to, if you would have gotten this job or whatever your post-grad job plans were, maybe you would have then not pursued law school. And maybe this does like kind of open the door for you to pursue law school, but it's not because of any design, in my opinion. And it's not a sign that you should go to law school at all, let alone right now. The 150 on your diagnostic, that's a little bit better of a sign. And your 3.88 UGPA, that's a little bit better of a sign because you've got a real strong diagnostic. You've got a pretty good UGPA. It's not great for the top 14, but it's pretty good. And as a Black woman, you're going to be very attractive to these law schools. I mean, you're underrepresented and they're going to roll out the red carpet for you with the right LSAT. I would just encourage you to study for the LSAT for as long as it takes and definitely make sure that you get your 170 something. I don't care how long it takes for it to click. You started at a 150, so it's probably not going to take you that long. But that's not an argument in favor of, okay, so I'm going to rush the LSAT right now. Just prep. And when your practice tests get into the 170s, then register for an official test. And if that ends up happening this fall and you end up applying this fall, that'd be great. But what I really don't want you to do is to decide you're going to go to law school this fall, sign up for the September LSAT as soon as the registration opens for it, and then, take the test even if you're still only scoring in the 160s. I would hate that outcome for you. Because you're just not going to get the door. Like, you have an opportunity to open the really elite doors. Like, all of the doors are open for you with the right LSAT. And that's just something that can't be rushed.
I hope you're getting a job too, so that you don't have this time pressure to quickly get to law school.
That's why my first advice earlier was get a job, any job.
Yeah.
Probably in a law firm if you can, so that you can get an idea what you're getting yourself into here. But get a job, and even if it's Starbucks, that's fine. Like, get a job, get yourself healthcare, pay the bills, and then sure, you want to study for a couple hours a day? Great. Do you want to have an eye on the September or October LSAT? Sure. The registration deadline for that is going to be mid-summer sometime, or maybe it's in early August or something like that would be a registration deadline for a September LSAT. So you've got a couple months to chip away at it. And if you're scoring in the 170s by then register and take it. But it sounds like you're trying to, decide in advance what your schedule is going to look like. And that's just it's not realistic. Most people who do this, I think, are doing it because they don't want to get a job.
Yeah.
But I think, Marie, you should get a job.
Yep.
Any job.
Thanks for writing in and tell us how it goes. The sky's the limit for you. So good luck. Be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us at thinkinglsat.com. If you have questions about the LSAT Demon, you can email help@lsatdemon.com. You can also check out our other podcast. That's LSAT Demon Daily.
I want to say, before we wrap it up, I want to say thank you to Ashley Beaver, our director of social media. Thank you, Ashley, for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks. That was episode 402 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing ya. Don't pay for law school.